you all so much for joining us. We are so excited to have you here as we prepare for the journey to dive deep together. Welcome to How Do We Heal? And today we have Kennetha Patterson here with us today. You all may know her as the homeless CEO, but today we are going to move beyond just the title and really get to the heart of who Kennetha is. How are you today?
Phenomenal. How are you?
I am wonderful. So, we've had the pleasure of having some really, really deep
Deep
conversations.
dives. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, yes. And so I wanted to have the opportunity for us to kind of deep dive. We do it on the phone as friends, and we really have had some very pivotal moments, and God has always given us these different insights. And so I want to take that and be able to share that. So, do you mind telling us just a little bit about not your titles, not what
Uh,
you do, but tell us a little bit about your story? Who are you?
wow, that's a packed question just to start off. But I would say from birth, I'm full on a warrior.
Mm,
I was born to a young mother, 15 years of age.
mm,
And at the time, right when I was born, I was told how I had a monitor in my head and,
mm.
just had struggles right off the bat, right out the gate. So it now in hindsight that I'm the big age that I am now, I can see how where everything started. So I'm a wife. I'm a mother of 5 children. I have 4 girls, 1 boy. Um, he's the second in line, and our roles are kind of reversed. Kind of how we were in life,
Mhm.
because I was the only girl of my mother's children, and I was the first one. So I just kinda look at him a little bit different, because of what I went through as the
Mm.
only girl. So mine is the flip mode of what my mother had.
Yeah,
So just looking at generational things throughout the, premise of life, now makes sense to me after being trained since the beginning as a warrior. I could
yeah.
see what that was back then now, but I didn't understand it coming up until, you know, such a time as this.
Well, let's unpack it. So,
Mhm.
I love that you touched on generational, and a lot of times people talk about generational curses and
Yeah.
generational trauma. Can you talk about maybe some of the things? I know when we were having a conversation the other day, you talked about some of those generational strongholds
Mhm.
and why you call yourself a warrior. Would you
Yeah.
mind telling us a little more about your story?
So yes, I know from childhood, and I could look at it actually chronologically because I know I said from birth that was one stage, and I think from birth to 5 years old that was a certain stage. But from 5 to 8, I started to experience right at 8 years old the spirit of suicide.
Mm.
And so from 8 to 39, is where I denounced that spirit of
Mm,
suicide, and I did not know that was an option.
mm,
And so, I did not give permission any longer to that spirit, and it was something that I really had to journey to get to and be delivered from and get free, set free from. But I want to say that particular generational curse, I feel like it was coming to try to steal out of a vault that is not empty.
mhm.
And that's what I feel like people have to know. The enemy doesn't come for you unless you are full of, valuables.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
I I know 5 years old, that's when I experienced childhood sexual assault.
Mm.
Um, and it was at the hands
Sorry to hear
of,
that.
yeah, the man that was my mother's husband. But I don't say that to, anything towards my mother. I feel like she was a young mother, and at the time of me being 5, she was just 20 years old. So, not excusing anything, but at the same time, I feel like I know as a mother, I was learning things along the way. And so I feel like I was just being the first child and to a young mother.
Mhm.
She didn't know what to protect me from, probably, I think, just in her youth, if that makes sense. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of, I think, up
N
until now
Now, do you
type of thing.
feel comfortable kinda unpacking that a little bit and us
Hmm.
staying there at that being 5 years old
Yeah.
and having your innocence and virtue stolen? Do you remember the first time?
I don't remember the if it was a series of happenings. I just distinctly remember the time when my mom walked in and found out about it, and it feels like that was the point where it stopped.
Mhm,
And I don't know if I know you mentioned trauma earlier. I don't know if my mind blocked out any other
mhm,
um instances, but distinctly remember that when I think because my mom walked in and found out what was going on. And I feel like in the midst of that, I remember the surroundings, I remember where we lived at, I remember just these triggering moments that if I drive past it to this day, I will remember that was the place or,
mhm,
things would trigger in your mind. But I just feel like it was really distinct because she walked in, and from that point, I no longer got to stay with my mom. I had to go stay with my grandmother.
mm,
And my grandmother, I feel like she was meant to be, you hear the word handler, but
mhm,
I feel like, that's what she was meant to be in a good sense,
mhm.
cause that's the person that taught me how to be a wife and taught me how to
Yeah.
cook anything that, I watched her in everything she did, and even to fundraising. I was just telling my daughter she was a guru at fundraising. I
Mhm.
said, "I wanna do that when I grow up, and be like her."
Yeah.
But, I feel like God meant for me to be under her and learn from her. She was a missionary and everything, and first lady at the church, so I learned a lot from my grandmother. So
Excellent.
yeah, in the
Um,
midst of adversity, he always flips it around to protect you, I feel like.
yes, he
Yeah.
does. So let's go to the moment where your mom walks in
Mhm.
and she recognizes that you are being molested by your then stepfather, right?
Mhm.
Do you remember how you felt in that moment?
I've kind of felt rescued a little bit, but at the same time, I could tell it felt like my mom was mad at me.
Mm,
Uh, versus what I thought I was rescued by seeing her face. I know from there, I ended up going to my grandma's house almost immediately.
yeah.
And then it was like periods of time. I see kids now that are, how they have shared custody or it's custody schedules and things like
Mhm,
that. I didn't understand what that was back then, but some of the time I'd be with grandma and some of the time I'd be able to go back to my mom's. But for the most part, it was like a immediate you're going to your granny's type of thing. Just I felt like that was safety
mhm,
to be there with her and my grandfather. And I just distinctly remember the act. I remember he used handcuffs. He
mm,
was already a correctional officer.
mm,
That's where he worked. I remember beer. He always was intoxicated. I don't know how he was at work, but whenever he would be left alone with me, it's like I don't know if he got through the shift or I just remember that uniform. So, just all types of things like that are triggering. The way he molested me was oral, and so that type of thing is very triggering for me. Especially like you said, with the innocence being taken, I didn't even know what was happening.
So was he, and you let me know if this is too much,
Mhm.
was he performing oral on you or did he train you to perform oral sex on him?
It was on him, and I think, because I distinctly remember a salty taste, so therefore, I think it's post-ejaculation type thing. I don't know, you know,
And you were 5.
to know all that, right? And,
Yeah.
um, yeah, just I remember thinking I shouldn't know anything about these parts. I didn't even know what the parts were at that
Mm.
point. I know it was a time and place where I was learning my address, my phone number, my name, how to spell my name. Like,
Yeah, and
that's
then that
yeah, as
experience
a child, you have no business knowing anything about anything like that. And
at all.
then now looking back too, it brings about a incubus and succubus type of demon too.
Mm,
So that follows you through life where just like encountering pornography or just other children, people don't think about that. And it just sparks something that's meant to defeat you,
mhm.
but thank God I survived out, from everything that took place. And I could say 2 also at 5. Remember being in my grandmother's basement after she took me in,
Mhm.
and I was a worshiper then and
Mm.
had no, you know
Yes.
my
Yeah, I
worship
know your
background.
worship, yeah.
So, like, just the fact that I feel like that's what the enemy was trying to steal and purpose,
Your voice,
yeah,
yeah.
so all the while being a warrior, I think from Jump Street, even I always wonder what happened before I was born. Like,
Mhm.
it made me start thinking about that, like,
Yeah.
how was the relationship between me and my mom when she found out she was pregnant? Because even that's a story
Mhm.
because it came out of, my father was a little bit older than her,
Mm.
and
And when you
so
say a little bit, you mean like
I
2,
don't
3 years, or we talking about 5 or 10
probably
years?
greater, probably greater.
Really? And she was how old?
She was 15.
She was 15 when
Yeah.
she had you. You're her oldest?
Yeah, and he might have maybe been in his 19s or something like
Mhm.
that, just older,
Yeah.
but I don't know the distinct age difference between them, but he lived across the street and she was across the street and they I guess met in my grandparents' basement.
Mhm.
And that is just the rest is history. I always remember my other granny living across the
Mhm.
street, and she was the type, I don't know, the dynamics of that was I could tell she didn't too much care for me.
Interesting.
Yeah, but it was that type of thing probably where the age difference was an issue, or I don't know, but it was just kind of just awkward
Now, did you
growing up.
have a relationship with your biological dad?
Yeah, on and off. He was there and whenever I could catch him across the street or he would always bring me something or my mom tried to drop me off there one year. I remember I was way older then. But she took me, he stayed in Murfreesboro and she took me to his house and once I got there, I was there for a little bit, but I remember he always rode a bike and his
Mhm.
legs were, like, super strong because he
Mhm.
always rode a bike. It just details
Yeah.
stand out to me. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it was my first time knowing he knew how to drive because he always rode a bike.
Mm.
And what he drove for was to bring my butt back home to Nashville
Oh,
to drop me
no.
back off. And I was like, "Well, what I do, you think"
Yeah.
that type of thing, and yeah, I had kinda encountered a lot of pornographic magazines in his room. I just feel like he wasn't
Mm.
ready for my visit, and she just dropped me off out of the blue like, "Here, you finna get your kid," type of thing,
Oh,
but,
wow.
yeah, I ended up later on having a really good relationship with him, and we ended up talking about this, and I was like, "I didn't know if you knew or not," but
And how did he respond?
I got to tell him what happened and this was before he passed away too, right? Before and I got to bring all my kids to see him and
Hmm.
he was like, "Oh, they could dance. That's me right there." So like
Mhm.
we had a really good both of us, my mom too, we had a really good relationship before she passed too. But when I told him about it, he said, "I knew that man acted strange. He was in a
Mhm.
heater box when I went over to visit you before and rolling around." Like, in something, where,
What's a heater box?
so you know the hot water heaters, and
Yeah.
they come out of a box. So my
Oh.
mom was staying in that Tom Haynes garden,
Mhm.
and so I guess the maintenance left the box behind,
Oh,
and
and
he was inside the box, literally rolling around in the box.
mm.
And so for me, that triggered, okay, he was not mentally stable, for one, and I ended up starting to find out a lot of things about, the man that did it along the way, that, like, it was generational for him too. His
Mm.
dad was a molester in the
Did
community.
he molest him, or he was a molester in
I
the
don't know
community?
who molested them as men
Mm.
because someone had to do something to start this, I don't know.
Mhm.
But the father was one, the brother had done some stuff, and him because people in the neighborhood knew about them as a family.
Mm.
And I heard a story about the particular one that did it to me where somebody was trying to run him off the road because
Oh,
they knew
wow.
and it had to happen to multiple girls, and I felt a type of way where I felt like I was letting other girls down by not speaking up about it.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, after you told your mom, did you guys file charges? What was the next step after that? Outside of you
Yeah.
going to your grandmother's house, did your mom leave him? Kinda what happened with that? Was he still in your life?
Yes, very much so. For a very
Oh,
long
that's
time,
devastating.
I know he didn't pass away until, October the 5th, 2023.
Mm.
Um, I believe it was 23 or it might have been 22
Mhm.
because I remember distinctly 2020, my brother was murdered on October the 5th, same
Mm.
day.
And that
And
was his son.
no, that was
That was
actually
his.
my mom's husband's son, the one that
Okay.
passed away, our baby brother of 5 of us.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, so and his is a generational thing too. That's probably another time and story. But yeah, I have 2 brothers by that father. One is right below me, and then the brother under him is their father as well. So
So he
2
was
children.
active in your family unit
Mhm.
from the time that your mom found him molesting you or sexually abusing you
Mhm.
until just a few years ago?
Mhm. And kinda before my mom passed away, she would kinda try to get me to interact or be in the same car, and I'm like, "I'm not doing that," type of thing, and just I was very respectful to her, period, but, I just knew that was a no for me, just even being around him.
So let's talk about boundaries. Now that you've said that, you
Mhm,
used a couple of terminologies that I want us to dive deep into. You talked about generational curses. We hit
mhm,
on that. You talked about trigger, being triggered, and then you've spoken about boundaries. So
yeah.
we're going to start with the boundaries and then we're going to roll back to when you're triggered, what you do. But let's
Mhm.
start with boundaries.
Yeah, that's
So
huge.
with him still being in your family dynamic and when you went to visit your mom, was he still in the house?
No, he had ended up maybe, I wanna say 5 or so years within that increment, he had another wife, but, and other children as well. I think one of the children, she was born before even me.
Mhm,
So that life existed. It was kinda like a double life type of thing,
mhm,
but, surprisingly enough, my mom and his wife ended up being best friends, and, like,
mm,
when she passed away, it tore my mom up, like,
mhm,
that was really her best friend, and then also the my bonus dad was friends with him,
mhm,
and my mom and him would help him out and take him back and forth to the bank or
mhm,
whatever. So they were all very interactive. I don't know that my bonus dad knew about what had
mhm.
happened, but it just was like moving along as normal.
So how did you set boundaries as a child and having to be exposed to him? How did you even got did you guys have that discussion either with your mom or with your grandmother on how you could have safe boundaries with
So
him?
no distinct conversation. I just remember being at Meharry's Elam Center, which is a
Mhm,
mental health
mhm,
center. And I remember going to a childhood program. So there were other children that
mhm,
had been affected by sexual assault,
mhm,
and we were all in a group setting. It was, I would say, intensive outpatient,
mhm,
which I didn't know what that was back then. I just knew I was going with these kids, and something happened to me, and nobody really explained along the way
mhm,
what I was there for. I just remember going and being part of the program, and some of the things we talked about, not much, but I think that's the only regimen I got
mhm.
versus pressing charges, and because, like I said, he was in a correctional uh,
So he
position.
continued to work as a correctional officer. He continued to be active in the family unit. How did that make you feel?
Mm. I then I didn't know how I felt, I only knew I was angry,
Mm,
very angry as, like I said, from 5 to 8, I started to develop those feelings, and 8 years old, no one loves me, I'm screaming out, I'm being real mean, things would happen to my brother, and they thought I was doing it on purpose, but I wasn't. It just was pure accidents, and they made it this dynamic as if I was after that brother. I'm
mhm.
trying to attack him, I'm trying to hurt him, and
Was
that
that the
was not
man's
the case.
son?
Mhm. So it got
Mm.
you see what I'm saying? It came
Yeah.
full circle around as if I was trying to hurt my baby brother, but I was interested at I remember at 5 reaching in the crib trying to pick him up, and I'm not even knowing that's his son. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? I didn't know the dynamic. All I see is a new baby.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to like really probably play with my brother, but I should not have been able to have access to him that
Mhm.
young type of thing, cause he ended up falling down the steps, getting a contusion, and all kind
Yeah.
of stuff that, like,
Yeah.
could have really hurt him. He broke his collarbone, but it was like anything that took place, it was my fault, with a
Mm.
lot of things, even that situation with the,
It was blamed on
molestation.
you.
Mhm.
You feel like the molestation was blamed on you?
Yes.
Who do you feel like blamed you?
Well, I feel like the way that it was found out and kinda the, "Let's put you over here so I could continue here,"
Mm.
that part of
Like
it.
you were ostracized and then the predator, was protected.
Correct.
Mm.
That, and he also went on to start driving buses as well. He ended up driving the MTA for a long time, and I didn't know I was an intercessory warrior, prayer warrior at
Mm.
that time. I always used to pray, don't let any girls encounter him whenever I would see him on the bus. It would be periodically I would end up on his bus, or one time I was getting on the MTA, because that's our mode of transportation back in the
Yeah.
day. Our parents made us get on the bus. It wasn't
Yes.
no lift, carpooling, none of that. We had to get, they call it
You
the
ain't telling no
MTA,
tale.
the air. That's what they
Hello.
called it.
Hello.
And so I remember getting 10-cent transfers and everything. But
Yes.
when I had to get on the bus this one time, I was coming home from school. I
Mhm.
was in my high school years probably then, maybe starting out. But this older man, and I remember his big old sloppy lips.
Mhm.
I was like, cause he came out of nowhere and kissed me on my mouth.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh, what is this God? And like, I didn't even know God like that back
Did you
then.
call the police or file
I
charges?
didn't know what to do. It just happened. I told my mom about it, and it was just like,
Nothing
okay.
happened.
So,
So let me ask you something. Do you feel like
yeah,
that them once your mom found out and then she didn't go to the police, do you feel like you weren't taught that if somebody violated you,
correct.
that you were supposed that there were people out there that would be there that could help you, that could support you, that could help you to find justice by punishing them? Did you not know that?
I did not know any of that information,
Mm.
and I think if my grandmother knew better, she would have, because, and I say that because once myself and my husband got together, she was ready to call the police on him. So I
Mm.
feel like, not saying he did anything, but just the fact that he was with her granddaughter, period.
Yeah.
She was like, and they ended up being really, really.
Close, the best of
Yes,
friends,
she
yeah.
called him Big Bear before she left here,
Yeah.
but she was after him at first, but I
Yeah.
feel like that was her moment of, "I can
Protecting you.
protect you now,
Mhm.
and he going to jail," 'cause,
Yeah.
but, I don't think that was known then. Cause if you think about things like that movie Color
Mhm.
Purple and how many of us this has happened to, and it's
Yeah.
just swept under the rug, I feel
Yeah.
like it was coming out of that era, and I don't know, I feel like people speak up more now than back then
They
for
did
sure.
back then,
Yeah.
yeah. And do you feel like your mother's relationship with you was kinda impacted
Oh,
based
yeah.
on what happened? And if so, how? How so?
Very deeply impacted, because it affected our communication ability, and then also coming up when I was able to be at the house with her, I know for a long time from 5 to, um I think up until maybe 12 years old,
Mhm.
I would periodically be able to go to my mom's, and when I did visit, it would always be some type of debacle. Um, and she had, it was, I'm gonna tell you, hold on. Uh, it's my dad, my two brothers' dad. I have a brother, he has his own dad, and then the baby brother, he has his own dad.
Okay.
So this dad here was staying, this is next to the last of the 5th children.
The one
He
that molested you?
this
Okay.
is, my 4th brother's dad.
Your 4th brother's there,
Yeah.
okay.
So what his thing was, he was from a military background, so
Mhm.
he was the person responsible for whooping everybody, and that's where
Mm.
I would get grounded, all of us would get lined up and hit whatever, whatever. So he was the one that was able to do that. And I remember one day I was about in the 6th grade and we were playing about, and my mom had left one of his friends there, the dad I'm talking about, and he was asleep in the back room. And so by the time my mom gets back, with the baby's father.
Mhm.
The man told her, he said, "Hot chocolate," and then woke me up. And I'm thinking in my head, what is hot chocolate? I'm still not getting it in my head. We just
So
innocently
your
run
children,
around
he's
playing.
calling you hot chocolate.
Hot chocolate and then woke me up.
Mhm.
And I remember getting the beating of the century because I woke this man up and he portrayed to them that I was being hot about it. And I'm just minding my business, run around
What is
playing.
being hot? Because I know growing
You
up,
hear
we
that a lot.
heard that you fast, you being hot in the tail. Oh, she must have wanted it. Did you hear stuff like that growing
That
up?
was that statement, and I grappled with that for the longest till I got older, and I didn't even know what he was saying or
Mm,
why they got mad at me. So yeah, that, and it was more so of you believe the man than the child.
mm,
So that framed the way that I think now. I always believe girls,
yeah,
just like it's automatic for me. And with my own children, I've always let them know up front, like you said, the
yeah.
forewarnings. If this happened, you come tell me. Nobody's supposed to be touching you or
Yeah.
anything. So it
So it
just made me
informed the way you parent.
yeah, hyper vigilant about that. And unfortunately, my oldest daughter did not miss that
Mm,
generational curse. However, this is how it was missed. I was looking for an adult.
mhm.
And in her case, it was a child that did it.
Oh, no.
That we took in, it was a male, and come to find out generationally, his father did it and he was currently in jail for it.
Oh,
And
okay.
I'm like, if I knew that, he couldn't have come in my house. But you thinking it's a child and you don't think about that.
Oh,
So
I'm sorry to hear that.
yeah,
Sis,
so
that is,
and
oh,
hers subsequently started at 5.
oh, the same
At
age.
5 and
So we talk about generational curses.
yeah,
This is the exact same experience. We don't know what your mom's experience was like,
correct.
but we know that she was a teen mother
Yeah.
and she was young when she had you. But you were molested at 5, and
Mhm.
then your daughter was molested at 5.
Yep.
How did you guys work through that? How did you heal from
Yeah.
that?
And Imma go into that, but Imma back up because I was 17 when I had her.
Oh,
Another generational curse.
mm,
So, I always applaud her because she just had her first baby at the age of 24.
mhm.
So I'm like, at
She broke it.
17, I said, "Girl, you broke it." You know, like,
Yes,
"Girl,
come
you broke
on.
it." And so she knows, and I'm always open with her about what happened to me so we can talk fluidly about it. And when I found out what happened to her, I was at work. My son, we were homeless at the time when we found out, and it was, she maybe over 5 years had lapsed, and
Mhm.
I literally did not know versus I feel like my mom knew, but you know what I
Well, she
mean?
knew because she saw it,
Yeah,
but she
so
acted like she
I
didn't. Mhm.
literally did not know, and my son caught him messing with her and called me while I was at work, and my husband subsequently was locked up at this time.
Mm,
And he had never been locked up before. The Lord put him in there cause to protect our family,
mhm.
cause I know what would have happened if he was
If
out.
he was out, yeah.
However, while he was in there, I feel like it was meant, cause this is what the Holy Spirit told me at the moment. He was like, "If you do what you want to do to that boy," cause I was coming in the house to do something to him myself when I found out. I had intentions premeditated. I was gonna touch his head with everything in the house.
Yeah,
Like, his
I
head
don't
was about to
blame
hit
you.
every wall. However, one of my friends got to me first. For some reason, I called her, and she was like, "K Peasy, don't do it." She said, "Your husband is locked up, and the enemy wants both of y'all."
Mm.
And so I heard her.
Whew.
It was hard to hear her, and I just came in the house. I was like, "You got to get out right this second. I don't care where you go. Start walking. You get out of here." And so I took her immediately to the hospital. My
Yes.
sister in love, she came and helped me, and his mom and everybody. So I feel like we defeated that one, and he ended up getting he was incarcerated anyway, cause he ended up trying to do it to an 81-year-old woman too.
Mm.
He ended up in another county. And so I was working with detectives trying to get him into the system.
Yeah.
And that's when I kind of found out his dad was already in.
So you turned him in.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was working
Yes,
with a
come
detective.
on.
It was immediate.
Yes.
It was immediate. So
So you broke that generational curse.
yeah, speaking up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
So
spoke up and you taught your daughter that there was people who will fight for her.
yeah, and she had no idea. And I feel like with her being the first baby, I didn't quite I let them know that they could tell people, but she still didn't know she could tell me. And
Mhm.
she kept it a secret, thinking she had to keep this kid secret
Mhm.
because he was in the house and kind of like a brother. And we took him in. My husband's always a father to the community.
Yeah.
And so that's where we took him in because he was at home with no lights, no food. Like
Yeah.
we took him in just naturally like we do.
Like you do all the
Yeah,
children.
and so it kind of put it where we started to not allow people in.
Mhm.
Um, cause now you gotta look out for
Thank
kids.
you. Yeah.
So yeah,
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So with that happening,
Mhm.
how did that impact you and your daughter's relationship?
It actually, I think, brought us closer. I feel like it was really a wake up call for me, and I really got even more hyper vigilant about the other kids and
Yeah.
even my son, because I thought it would have been him with him being the opposite child. That's how my
Yeah.
mind was thinking.
You thought your son might have been the predator, but he
The
was actually
prey.
the protector.
Yeah, he saw it, and as soon as he figured out what was going on, he was like, "Mama, this," and he knew to
Yes.
tell me. And so I don't know. And I'm thankful for him too because anything could have happened before I got back home.
Yeah.
And
He's
I
her
was
older brother or her
he's
younger brother?
he's right up under her. They're
Yeah.
considered Irish twins. They are
Yeah.
10 months and 13 days apart.
Yeah, so he
And
was protecting his sister,
yeah,
as he should.
and I feel like technically, like literally, they were meant to be together uh, as twins, but as small as I am, I don't think they both would have survived. You
So
know
they
what I
had to
mean?
come back to back.
That's how I feel about them.
Well,
I call
honey,
them Irish twins is what they are, but
well, you know what,
yeah.
Kennetha? People knew you before
Yeah.
as the homeless CEO. Now they know why we call you a warrior.
Yeah.
The stuff that you endured, that you have endured thus far, I just don't know how you have, but I know because it's your relationship with
Yeah.
God, and I am so glad we didn't get to unpack the things that triggered you
Yeah.
this time, but we'll circle back around and have that discussion because I want to talk about how the different things, like when you said the oral sex triggers you now. So
Yeah.
that's something that you kind of shy away from because of what happened in the past. And I really want us to be able to unpack that on
Mhm.
another episode of How Do You Heal?
Mm.
Because I want to talk about how even being molested at a young age can impact your life as an adult and your marriage and all of that type of stuff.
Yes.
So we will definitely unpack and get in that. Are you willing to come back and
Yes,
join
ma'am,
us?
because that's a whole story by itself.
Yeah.
When you were talking about it, I started to think I already know the answers
Well,
to
sis,
every bit of it.
good. Sis, I thank you so much for
Oh,
joining
thank
us
you.
today. Thank you for going deep. I know this is
Yes.
scary. I know that
Mm.
it probably brought up a lot of different things,
Yeah.
but I want you to know that you are not alone, that there are survivors all over this world, and I say survivors because you survived some stuff.
Yes.
We survived some stuff.
Yes,
And so
ma'am.
I'm just grateful that you shared your story today. And I know that somebody somewhere is going to be inspired by it and that warrior spirit that lives on the inside of you. You just woke up another one.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you all so much for joining us today. I know you have your tissues ready. I hope you have your journals and you're following those journal prompts. Make sure you like, you subscribe, you follow, share your story in the comments. We want to hear from you because we are so much stronger together. Thank you once again for tuning in to How Do You Heal with your girl, Jenny Calhoun. Love you. Bye.